it's not always easy. Sometimes it's difficult to hold those boundaries, but I feel a lot freer and I feel a lot more in control, or at the helm, maybe. I don't know if control is the right word, because control would mean grasping or clinging. It's not control, but I just feel more solid, and like I am the one who's in charge of my life versus being a victim of circumstance.
If I could stand up and give that a standing ovation. Welcome to Grow with Robin Breckenridge, a podcast about stepping into the most fully expressed, aligned, and conscious version of yourself. Here, we dive into the real work of personal growth, establishing boundaries, understanding your patterns, building self-trust, healing emotional wounds, and creating relationships that feel safe, authentic, and fulfilling. I'm Robin, a life and relationship coach, and in each episode, we'll explore the tools, insights, and conversations that will help you not just improve your life and relationships, but truly transform them. You don't have to just go through it. Let's grow through it, and let's do it together. Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Grow with Robin. I am so excited. In fact, my guest today met me a little early so we could check our tech, and I was just like, man, we were already so high vibe, Sarah. We were like so excited to talk, and I just feel super excited about this conversation. So today's conversation is about what it really means to do it differently. It's about taking the energy you once poured into trying to control, chase, fix, or prove, and learning to transmute that same energy into something that builds you into purpose, into trust, and into alignment. Awareness is a powerful beginning. It's the light that lets us see our patterns clearly, often, sometimes for the first time. But healing doesn't stop there. Once we can see those patterns, we have an invitation to choose differently. And every time we make a small, intentional choice, every time we respond rather than react, we start to shape a new experience of ourselves and the world around us. And that is exactly what my guest today has done. Again and again and again in the most beautiful ways. Sara Sparkles is a master Pilates trainer, tarot reader, and tarot coach who helps build strength, alignment, and confidence in people's bodies and in their lives. She trains Pilates instructors nationwide and works closely with clients to bring out their fullest potential through movement. What began as a personal passion for tarot has evolved into a mind, body, spirit practice, weaving together intuitive readings, coaching, breath work, and guided visualization. Sara is known for her warm, empowering style that helps people connect with their inner wisdom. Her mission is to guide others towards living with greater clarity, freedom, and joy. And beyond all of that, because my favorite thing to do, Sara, is you guys send me like your bio and I get to read it, but then I get to do my bio on you. Beyond all of that, Sara is one of the sweetest, most deeply intuitive, resilient, brilliant, and truly magical humans I know. In fact, Sara Sparkles really does sparkle.
Thank you.
She's the kind of person whose presence makes you feel seen, whose wisdom makes you feel grounded, and whose heart makes you believe in what's possible for your life again. I'm crying already. I can't have guests on this show. Sara, I'm so happy you're here. Thank you so much for being a part of this podcast. You are such a special person and light in my life. And as I'm reading your bio, I'm emotional because I've been on such a journey with you, and to have who you are professionally written in a bio and be able to read it, I just feel like if we rewound back to when we first met, like it's magical. It's magical where you are today. So thank you for being here.
100%. Oh my gosh. I feel like I wouldn't be here without you. So thank you.
You're so welcome. So Sara and I both have two very cute puppies who are in the room with us because we're puppy moms, and they are friends through FaceTime because we live in different states. But should we show everybody our puppies who's watching? Okay, hold up. Oh, of course River's going to run.
Want to say hi, Wilson?
Look at these cute guys. So not only do you have Sarah and I here, but you have River and Wilson, our cute little puppies who are going to puppy school later today. But Sarah, where I think I want to start the questions is to rewind. You and I have known each other, I think, for about 8 years. Does that sound about right to you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was newly into coaching for a different organization, and you came into my life. And of course, I think sometimes I have guests on where we have like very long-term relationships, and sometimes people are like, oh God, I'm not going to be there for 8 years or something. And that's not what happened. It's just that we build really beautiful, deep relationships. And this is one of them where we've maintained work in a relationship for the past 8 years. So if you can tell us a little bit, like what led you to coaching at the beginning of our journey?
Yeah. So what led me to coaching was I found myself throughout my life in a series of toxic relationships, and I was suffering a lot from that, but I didn't necessarily know why. I was unconscious to why I continued to get into these connections and didn't really know how to get out of it, and was looking for help and support and wasn't sure where to find it. I was in a current toxic relationship. One of the beautiful blessings from that past relationship was that my ex-partner pointed me towards ACA, Adult Children of Alcoholics, and I found a lot of solace in that group. I still find comfort there, and I just think it's a wonderful organization, any of the recovery groups. And I pretty quickly got a sponsor and was sharing with her some of the things I was dealing with. And she let me know that it was beyond her skill level and that she thought I needed a higher level of care to deal with the issues that I was navigating through. So she recommended me to Erin, who's a dear friend and soul sister now too. And Erin
was on the podcast. She was a guest on the podcast too.
Yes. And so Erin didn't have enough space, but she referred me to you, and the rest is history. We started working together, and I'm so, so grateful for all of that.
My goodness, so am I. And I know that Erin is as well. And it was such a full circle moment for you to come to our workshop that we had in May. And when Erin and I were, kind of building it from the ground up, your name was mentioned from the very beginning. We were both like, we don't know why yet, but like intuitively, Sarah is supposed to be at this, and we made it happen. And it was just such a beautiful moment for me, and I know for Erin. So I think it's so relatable, Sarah, that like a lot of people come into this work that really is kind of based on working on your relationship with yourself because of a relationship outside of you. And so, we might come in like, oh, this toxic relationship or this toxic ex, but it ends up, holding a mirror up to your relationship with you. Okay. So Sarah, I know you have kind of a unique start to your story that I think would be really impactful for you to share. So if you don't mind sharing a little bit about your story, starting with like your birth and your adoption and how your earliest experiences shaped the way that you saw yourself and the world.
Yeah, so I was adopted at birth, and over the years, more information about that origin story has been revealed to me. But the information that I do know is that when my birth mother gave me up, before she gave me up, she spent most of the day with me, just connecting with me and just being together. And then before my family came to get me, I was alone in the hospital for 3 days. So although they were a loving family, I believe that this really shaped my view of the world in a way that caused a lot of fear and anxiety. And it really left me feeling like something was missing and that I needed approval from outside sources, or I needed love from outside sources, or that the people I love are going to abandon or leave me. And it really started to translate out into the relationships that I got myself into and the connections I would have of just, I think, unconsciously trying to repair that. But there was a lot of deep-seated fear around being abandoned. So I know those pre-verbal memories can be super powerful, so I don't have any conscious memory of it, but I know that it affected me. And for the longest time, I didn't know what that was. And until that information was revealed to me, it made so much sense when I put the two things together, because I had felt like that. Like there was just something missing always, and I couldn't put my finger on what it was.
Wow. I think that understanding your nervous system as a threat detector and that it is recording every experience that ever happened to you to alert you, keep you alive, keep you safe to those things that impacted or harmed you before. So I think that and this is so relatable, whether you were adopted or whether you just didn't connect securely to your primary caregivers at a young age, that still lives in your body and it still lives in your nervous system. And a great book on that subject is The Body Keeps the Score, which is that sometimes like our body remembers before our brain even qualifies it. And if it's not a memory, it might not even be something that your brain is going to refer you back to. But the nervous system response is that if I'm abandoned, my life is threatened. As a baby, truly, you couldn't survive. So what a like beautiful awareness, because sometimes we can think about these attachment styles like that particular experience is going to lend really well to you having an anxious attachment wound in your relationships. Right. And that's a frustrating one if anyone's ever felt that way. And it basically says, I will avoid abandonment, rejection, and neglect at any cost.
At any cost. I mean, it's hard to describe the intensity of that feeling, but it literally feels like if I get abandoned, I will die. I can't describe it any other way. It just feels so threatening. And so, and it's interesting how we can get imprinted so early with these memories, but it can translate into childhood and adulthood and just stay with us. So those are definitely things we've been unpacking together for quite some time. And I feel so grateful because the work we've been doing has really helped me to understand those parts of myself better and meet them with compassion, but also recognize that they're part of me and they're there and they're going to be with me till I leave this planet. So
I think that's such a great bit of being in reality. I think sometimes we think like, how do I get rid of this anxious attachment wound? Or how do I get rid of this sensitivity to this particular thing? And the truth is you just get better at living with it.
I love that when you approached me about doing tarot or using my intuition, the beautiful thing was that I could use that with myself, that empathic radar for just energy and using my nervous system in a way that helped to channel it positively versus as a threat detector.
So good. So let's just name that when we're calling it that thing, like we're calling it an attachment style, what it really is that little baby. It's a very young part of you that when abandonment comes up, goes into terror, feels like your life is threatened. And it's so important how we attune to that baby, because what ends up happening, and this is just true for all of us, what was done to us, we will unconsciously do to ourselves. So I have a big rejection wound, hate it. It's like an Achilles heel. When I realized that what took me to a level 10 on the emotional pain scale when I experienced rejection was when I rejected myself in the rejection. Right? When you abandon yourself in the abandonment, it's like that little kid is going, oh my God, they don't like me. I'm not good enough. And you're like, and you're not. Go be different or I will not love you. or go get their approval and then I'll love you. You know what I mean? It's like, that's that thing we're talking about. It's not just an attachment style or this thing that we can process intellectually. From an embodied perspective, it's that little girl.
And I think it took me so long to realize that I was actually counterintuitively going to the people that were harming me to try and fix that part of myself or get love or approval for that part of myself. But I was going towards the very thing that was destructive, looking for healing or wholeness, and so therefore abandoning myself. So I had to really learn how to be there with myself and parent that part of myself, and that was the ultimate, and take it out of that energy versus handing it over to other people, especially people that didn't have the tools or desire or health to do that.
I think it's such a common thing where we kind of go, oh, this kid's crying, take it. And it's such a common thing in even couples work where it's like, it's actually your job to attune to that child. You're the only one that can take care of it. Your partner can support you, but they don't know what to do with that screaming little kid. And I know for you, Sara, like, kids aren't necessarily like your forte. It's not like you want to be around kids. I know we've had conversations about that, right? And some of it, like I saw this guy talking about when he's on an airplane and there's a screaming baby on the airplane or a kid. He goes, I can look around the airplane and I know who was not allowed to feel their feelings as a kid, just based off their reaction. And I was like, wow, that's so like, because you have an intolerance for kids showing emotion or it not being controlled or contained, and there's so many ways that we do that to ourselves, like that we show up in this conditional way to those parts. Like, I will love you when you're not upset. I will love you when, and I thought parenting my inner child was like this sentence I had to carry out. I was like, oh, she's so much work. Like, I got, and that's not what it's actually been the most beautiful portal to me living the most aligned life is being able to be in relationship with her in a way where she doesn't feel like a hindrance in my life.
I love that.
One of the reasons why I know that I asked you a while ago to be on the podcast and I was like, wait, I'm going to find the right moment, but I know you're going to be on here. It felt like such a wonderful place to bring you and your story into the place around doing it differently and shifting our actions. And there is one distinct moment in our work. And I actually remember exactly where I was, which is laughable to me. I was in the DSW parking lot, which I don't even think I go to DSW. I have no idea why I was there, but I remember I was there. And you and I, previous to that moment, you had a lot of anxious energy going on and you were recovering from a relationship. And I was telling you like, hey, energy can only be transmuted. It can't, like, we can't just get rid of it. And so we had this moment where I was like, okay, we know we have all this anxious energy that's here, but like, what can we do with it? Where could we direct it that's purpose driven, that doesn't hurt your life? What do you like to do? And you said, well, I really like tarot. And I was like, cool, give someone a tarot reading. And you were like, okay, yeah, like, all right, I guess, but I don't know if I'm good at it. I don't really know if I know what I'm doing. And then I think either probably like right after that session, you text me and said, could I give you a reading? Or maybe I said, if you don't have anyone, I'll do it. I can't remember. And then here I am in the DSW parking lot and you sent me a reading. And I'm going to talk about that reading in a minute because it was crazy. But tell us a little bit about that path of like, you had this anxious energy and we could have used it to try to fix the guy or figure out what was wrong with you to be enough for him or control something. And you directed it towards something purpose-driven, something that you felt connected to. So tell us a little bit about that moment and and kind of walking towards the path of doing tarot. And
yes, so that moment I think was really a turning point for me, because I had been so stuck in the energy of looking outside myself for validation or anything else that I thought I needed from somebody else to feel whole and complete, and had really been abandoning myself in the process. And so I do remember that, asking you if I could give you a reading. And it helped me direct that energy in a way that it's hard to describe. It just felt right. Something felt like a channel opened up and the information came through really clearly. And it just felt natural and organic. It didn't feel forced. It just completely felt authentic the way that I was doing it. And I was really surprised to find that there was a lot of information coming through, and the messages I was receiving, the clarity was just really surprising to me. And when I stopped to quiet all the noise of trying to direct that energy outside of myself, it was really pretty amazing what showed up. And so after that, I started doing tarot readings for everyone and anyone. I just wanted to read tarot so much, just like anybody who would want a reading. I would give readings to strangers. I just was so into it, because it not only was helping me direct that energy, but I started to recognize that it was helping others to find clarity and healing. And it empowered me to help myself, but also gave me hope that I have tools and skills and I can help other people with my gifts.
and it's so fascinating to me, because that was at a time when you were in a lot of pain. You know, sometimes like we just think like the pain is so consuming. Like my greatest place of pain in my life was when I went on the trajectory of this career. When I actually thought that particular time in my life was going to disconnect me from the most people, because I was in so much pain. So I love that, like, that's such an example of like, you can be in pain and let the light in. And that the door, kind of, for lack of a better term, was like your ability to shift that energy and choose, like, to put it towards something that felt purpose driven. So I just want to tell you, I don't know if I've ever said it exactly this way, but when I said, sure, you can give me a tarot reading, I'm thinking you're just going to, like, you know, shuffle some cards and be relatively new. And in that DSW parking lot, you sent me a reading and I went, oh shit. Because I like to have boundaries in this work. And in this work, I don't bring a lot of my personal life or my personal challenges, because this work is about you and what you're going through and getting you support. And at the time, unbeknownst to you, I was in a lot of conflict in the company that I was working for. And I was kind of working out like how I was going to leave and kind of making sense of some things that were going on. And you tuned into it in the reading and gave me that, like you were had a camera in my house. And I remember watching it being like, oh my God, number one, you're insanely talented. You have just opened a door that I did not think you were going to open. And then two, I went, oh no, are you going to put it together? That it's this company that I'm coaching you through. And thankfully, I think your messages were broad enough that, like, it could have been a lot of different things. But Sara, your ability level was so insane that it blew me away. And since that day, I think I've referred you to about every person I care about, anyone who is open to tarot, who I think would benefit from it. And I know that you know, because you've known me for a long time, I always say I'm very stingy when it comes to referrals. And I literally sent my mom to you. And she listens to her reading quite often. So I love this story because it was a moment of pain and what felt like powerlessness to you. And because we were able to point that energy into a more purpose-driven space, it opened up this whole avenue that was very aligned with your authenticity. And like you just described, not only did it serve as a place for you to feel like you were in your purpose, but it's also helped a lot of people. I mean, there is not one person that I have sent to you that didn't come back to me and go, OMG. Like there was something in that reading I needed. And I also love, because I have been to intuitives before and I have done tarot readings before. One of my favorite things about this part of your life is how much work you've done with me and how integrated it is into the readings. Like it's so, the feedback is so relational. And it's also very, it's like there's a lot of awareness around consent. Like you don't, some people are afraid, like, well, I don't want to hear something bad about my life, or I don't want to hear something about my future. You're always very just tuned in to like the high vibrational energy of spirit. And I think it complements my work so well. Like I've had some people that have worked with me and done a reading with you, and sometimes our feedback is very similar. So it just stood out to me. I always knew like this story is the story that I wanted to be on this show, because I know that I have been in a lot of pain and thought that nothing good would come from that space.
Yeah, I mean, it's an easy place to get stuck, I think, especially, yeah, that place of what I was in withdrawal at the time was one of the hardest experiences I've ever gone through. And luckily, I was connected to you, and I had a beautiful coach who could recommend things like that, because it was a catalyst for healing, and I needed somewhere for that energy to go. But I had no idea that it was going to blossom open into this. It was just more like, okay, I need to do something right now to redirect my focus away from what I'm doing now, because it's not working.
So I think it's good that we pause for a minute, because I don't think we've ever talked about withdrawal on the show. And I think that it's such, no. This is great. This is a great topic to talk about. Withdrawal is to me, there's a difference between a normal breakup and withdrawal. A normal breakup is like, I'm experiencing grief, which is a part of any ending of anything. Withdrawal is like, I'm experiencing grief, and it also just cracked open my core wound that isn't healed yet. And anybody who's been through relational withdrawal, like there are studies that show that the same part of your brain is highlighted in withdrawal that is highlighted in the withdrawal of meth. I mean, it is an awful place to be. I think it's like a bottom in which we can rebuild our life. But in the last little series we've been doing on the podcast, we've been talking about parts of self. And I think that when withdrawal hits, it like hits that inner child wound that the teenager can't manipulate itself out of, can't change that person, can't do its job of self-protection. And we're kind of launched on an emotional pain scale onto like a 10, which would be like intolerable, or kind of the equivalent of emotional death. And where we left off in the series was on the conscious adult part of self. And I think that when we talk about this story of how you were able to transmute your energy to something that's purpose driven, like somehow we called on your conscious adult during the time that like your other parts of self were on fire.
She was in there somewhere. She was fast asleep, but that definitely nudged her awake.
Yeah, well, what's so cool is it like put her behind the wheel of the car. And in what's so neat, Sara, like, because I've seen you through so many different things in your life, your conscious adult is a force. Your conscious adult is so full of wisdom and power. And I think that you're a great example of how when we disconnect from that part and another part takes the wheel, like an inner child, and we feel powerless, that's not the whole story. Like somehow you found power in the most painful experience of your life. And it led you to a more purposeful place. Because I know, I mean, I prepped you in my last episode. I said, I'm having a guest on. She's amazing. She's this incredibly intuitive person. And I said, I have benefited from her intuition, because now you're so intuitive. There's been times where you're like, I feel like I'm like impressed to send you a reading. And I'm like, oh, well, I was literally going to call you later and be like, can I have a reading on this particular issue? Like my life has been impacted in a positive way because you were brave enough to try this thing that you felt drawn to.
Well, thank you. And I think that what really cracked it open for me was that I had somebody like you who was willing to see me and hold space for me, because I didn't believe in myself at that time. I didn't believe in my worth. And you reflecting that back to me really helped me to open that up. And so it's so beautiful how it comes full circle like that, because I think you creating that container for me to feel safe and heard and seen just allowed that part of myself to come to the forefront. So thank you.
I mean, thank you. Sara, one thing that I'm noticing from some of the things that you're saying is that, you need help and support and community.
Oh,
you mentioned ABA, you mentioned me.
Mm-hmm. Community is so important. And I think that that's one of the biggest lessons I've learned as of late, that being part of a community. So I also love bringing people together, whether it's in work or just people's spiritual gifts or, the teachers that I work with. I just love bringing people together. And community is so important in any endeavor. I think if you're healing, studying, just, living and enjoying life, being creative, it's just really important. I don't think we're meant to do it alone.
No, I agree. I think that we can't do it alone. And I think that it's a great reminder. It's why I kind of have my business set up to come consistently for a period of time and then come as needed. And sometimes people will go, oh, I thought I was healthier than I was. And the truth is, it's not about that. It's that we still need support. We still can't do these things alone. In fact, that's kind of where the trauma started, is that we were with something that we felt powerless in and alone.
Yeah.
So I love that you just kind of keep bringing up, because withdrawal specifically, like you cannot do that on your own. And even toxic relationships.
Yeah. I think when you get isolated, that's when it really gets bad, and you can get stuck, or it's just go downhill really fast if you are isolated. So it's really important to stay connected.
Totally agree. So on the subject of your conscious adult, how do you see the role of your conscious adult in this journey? And how did you build that part of yourself over time? Because I witnessed it.
Yeah. So my conscious adult for this phase in my journey, I think, is to just help me live to my highest potential and help me show up in every category of my life as my best, most authentic self. So holding my boundaries, being confident and creative, and stepping towards the life that I really want to live, creating the relationships that I want to have. And how did my conscious adult get here? Was that the question that you asked?
And how did you build that part of yourself over
Yes,
time?
how did I build that part of me? With small, manageable chunks, little tiny steps, just little. It doesn't all happen at once, although I feel like sometimes it comes in waves, but just continuously having the will to want to be, I don't want to say be better, because I want to love myself where I'm at and as I am, but just to want to evolve to the best version of myself. And so just continuously, and again, I think it comes to community, staying connected, but there was also a big part of my journey where staying connected to community. But I think when I first met you, especially, I over relied on relationships, and I had trouble making decisions on my own. And I had to wax away some relationships or shift some relationships that were unhealthy, and I didn't realize it at the time. And so, yeah, just making conscious choices about who I share my energy with, the words that I speak, and just the decisions that I make, I think is how I continue to bring in that part of myself.
Love it. So I'm thinking about one element of you being able to be in your conscious adult is boundaries. And I'm just thinking about, I'm kind of sitting here smiling, like thinking about our journey and all of the growth that I've witnessed in you. Like, how have your boundaries changed, Sara? Because you right now are not in a toxic relationship. You right now are extremely discerning of who you let in your life and who you let have access to you. So tell me a little bit about your journey with boundaries from when I first met you.
I don't really think I knew what they were or had any at all when we met. And just through our work together, through my work with ACA and just other healing modalities, I learned how I was abandoning myself through my actions with having poor boundaries. And for me, I'm more of an overgiver. And so I just would have boundaries around, I would need to put up parameters with the people in my life that weren't treating me the way I deserve to be treated, but I still continued to allow that to happen. And so I think, yeah, just over time, it's really funny because now here today versus 8 years ago, it's hard to think about where exactly the shifts came. It's just continuously showing up and keep continuing to just make conscious choices, or when I know that I've done something that isn't serving me, to redirect or refocus or wax those relationships out of my life, however hard it may seem.
So perfect timing as always. It reminds me of parenting, like self-parenting. I think you have become, I don't want to use the word better, like you said, just a more connected self-parent from a place of love. And I think that I love that you're saying it wasn't like this light bulb moment. It was these little choices over and over again that kind of led you here. So tell me, now that you live so much more in this conscious adult part of you, what does that look like in your work? Like, what does living in that part of you look like?
It's not always easy. Sometimes it's difficult to hold those boundaries, but I feel a lot freer and I feel a lot more in control, or at the helm, maybe. I don't know if control is the right word, because control would mean grasping or clinging. It's not control, but I just feel more solid, and like I am the one who's in charge of my life versus being a victim of circumstance.
If I could stand up and give that a standing ovation. I think a great word is empowered.
Yes.
Right? Like the truth is, in fact, I distinctly remember one time you called me in a session or whatever, because I mean, it was so long ago. We talked over the phone. We didn't even do Zoom then. But I think you were like, I need my teenager to stop liking this kind of guy. You might not even remember this, Sara. I do, though. And I remember being like, okay, well, you can't make your teenager more conscious than they were at the time. Right? Like our little girl and our inner child and our teenager, they were powerless. Like, we couldn't go move out of our house or like go get a job and find a better life or find an aligned community. So what we can do is we can parent that part of ourselves. And I remember a client one time with a similar thing, because I've heard a lot when people are like, I need my inner teenager to stop liking bad boys or whatever, you know? And I was like, yeah, your inner teenager is going to like bad boys. You just have to parent them. And this person went like out to like the club or whatever and got curious, which is such a big part of like bringing in your conscious adult. And she goes, okay, who am I attracted to in this club or whatever? And it was a guy that she had met a bunch of times through like a friend, didn't remember who she was ever. And another person who like wasn't paying attention to her at all. And she was like, oh, that's interesting, right? Like I'm attracted to the ones that don't like me or the ones that I have to chase or like work really hard. And so it was like this first moment in her life where she had agency in that attraction. And she went, okay, okay, teenager, I hear you. You like those two? Those are the two we're not going to talk to tonight. We're going to have a boundary around that.
I definitely resonate with that. And I do feel like my conscious adult shows up now. It's discernment and just noticing those moments. And what's really cool about it is lately, I feel like it's not even that I'm drawn to that anymore. I can just recognize it like, whoa, I would have, fallen for that in times past, or I would have dove right into that one without looking back. And now I'm like, like I just feel that little caution in my gut. And I'm like, okay, I don't want to go on that ride again. So I think I'm going to go this way instead.
Hallelujah. Well, discernment, I always like to define it. Discernment means good judgment, and it's a part of boundary setting. It's not that you walk into the club and go, I'm so much better than everybody in here. And we're not looking down in judgment. We're getting data. Mm-hmm. And what you just said, Sarah, which is so great, after practicing this over and over again, you have a new default setting. You're not even necessarily pulled towards the same things.
No, and it didn't happen overnight for sure. I know that there were like many times where I did repeat the cycle or needed to just go back and repair, but then eventually it started to get traction, and then it feels really good when that happens. So I'm just so grateful for that illumination, because it's hard to describe, but it almost feels like being asleep, like when you're unconscious to those patterns. And I have so much empathy for anyone who is stuck there, because it's not something you can recognize always. And it feels like being trapped, and it's extremely destructive and painful. So yeah, it's not a good place to be.
No, and there's a lot of scary stories that go on there, right? Where like maybe our black and white thinking can come in and say, you're never going to find the right partner and nothing's ever going to work out and you're going to be alone for the rest of your life. And I know we've talked about that because it's human to time travel and to tell stories. So I know that that's kind of a part of like a daily practice for you, or one that you come back to a lot. Yeah. Which is that like, we don't realize that there's a part of us sitting down, that scared little kid who's going, I just want connection. I just want someone that's not going to leave me in the hospital, that's not going to leave me alone. And we're going, well, guess what? You're screwed. You're never going to have anybody. You're always going to be alone. And then we realize like, that doesn't calm the most wounded, vulnerable part of us. It terrifies them.
Yeah. Yeah, it adds fuel to the fire for sure.
Yeah. So a great practice, I know it's one that you come back to. I know it's one that I come back to, is coming back into this moment, because this moment is where we have the power, and just being aware of the scary stories. Because when we talk about parts of self, Sarah, I know you know this so well, like they go everywhere with us. Mm-hmm. Your inner child doesn't sit out that work conflict or that date that you went on. It is filtering everything through those parts. Mm-hmm. So tell me just a little bit about like, how has your self-talk changed? And of course, I always want to be very clear that there's not like a finish line of health. It's not like we're like, I'm nice to myself now and that's it. It's like this practice. So tell me a little bit about your practice of maybe speaking more kindly to yourself or having more emotional attunement in those moments of fear.
Yeah, it definitely has gotten a lot better. And like you said, it's not something where there's perfection, but it definitely is to a place where I can be more of an observer, or just notice that part of myself and step in, like you said, to parent it. I don't have children, but if my puppy was sad, how would I talk to him? And so how would I approach that? I wouldn't scold him. I wouldn't, be mean to him or lock him away. I would hug him and hold him and speak nicely to him or comfort him, and so I try to talk to myself that way and just be supportive, like I would want a supportive friend to be.
I love that. And that is something that I think if we rewound back to when we first met
Mm.
is some form of a miracle. I don't think you had that level of self-nurturing on board. And I know you and I are reading, or you already read it, but I'm still reading the Elizabeth Gilbert book, All the Way to the
So
River.
good.
And that acronym LAVA that she talks about in that book, holy smokes. I mean, we could do a whole episode. In fact, maybe come back and one day we'll talk about the lava piece,
Mhm.
but it stands for love, attention, validation, approval,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah,
Right. I always want to say
that reminds me of the tool that you gave me, the acknowledge, validate, permit, support. That is one I definitely use a lot for parenting, like those parts of myself when they come up, to just really be heard. Because as loving as my family of origin could be at times, like we're all just learning. And I think that there were times that that wasn't necessarily what I received. And so it's almost like being able to go back in a time machine and reorient myself to those types of interactions versus, unhealthy ones.
so AVPS, for everybody listening, I'm about to do just a full episode just on AVPS, like when we talk about reparenting. So just pause on that one, acknowledge, validate, permit, support, and we'll dive into it a little bit more because there are so many amazing tools to help you reparent. But that lava piece, I think, Sarah, when we don't know how to give ourselves love, attention, validation, approval,
Mhm.
then we have to seek it outside of ourselves.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the trap of like toxic relationships is it's like, as long as I get even a crumb of that, it's more than I give myself.
Yeah.
So I think what's funny is we're kind of talking about mothering a lot in this episode, which I know you don't have a physical child, but I've talked a lot with people who don't have physical children, that if we talk about mothering as an energy,
Mhm.
which I think nurturing is kind of that motherly energy, like you're parenting your inner child all the time. Like you're a mom to these parts of self or a dad to these parts of self.
Mhm.
And I'm just really proud of you. I think you're doing a really good job with
Thank you
that.
so much.
So I am just so proud of you because I think that you now are in that nurturing motherly energy for your inner child and for this puppy that I know you love so much and has brought you a great deal of healthy connection in your life.
Yes, 100%.
Good job, Sarah.
Thank you.
Okay, so Sarah, for anybody who's listening, who's still stuck in anxiety, fear, patterns of control, what would you want them to know, like based off the wisdom that you have now?
That there is help and support available, even if you don't have resources, even if you don't know how, even if you feel stuck and trapped and hopeless. That I was at one of the worst places in my life when I found you, and it was divine intervention. And the way that it all happened, just it was divinely guided. And I think it's just if you have the will to want to do it, the resources, the connections, the help will appear. And when you're first starting out, or if it's really tough, just stay with it, because healing and health is possible for anybody, I think, who wants it. And just ask for help; it'll come. I don't know how else to say it. Like I can't explain how so many things in my life have happened, and just how I found you, or a lot of beautiful things. So just be willing and ask for help, and that's all you need.
I'd love to just kind of add to that I think that our fear can highlight limitations, but I don't think the universe is limited. And I know that in my own journey, there were times where I was like, I can't afford that. Like, I can't afford coaching, or I can't afford this therapist that charges this much, or, whatever it is. And I think the most important thing to do is just take that step forward. Like, I happen to be a coach where obviously I charge a high rate because I've have a lot of experience now, and I take a lot of trainings and I do a lot of things. And I feel like I'm at a place where I'm aligned with my value. In fact, I had a newer client recently and I told him my price point and he said, that makes me like you and respect you even more, that you are confident enough to ask for that price. And my fear will go, oh, if people hear that, they'll run for the hills. But I'm also somebody who will never forget that I've been a person that couldn't afford the modality that I felt called for, and that people were gracious to me and that miracles happened. So I will always be someone who has a certain amount of sliding scale availability in. So I always tell people, like, just reach out. In fact, when Erin and I were planning our retreat that we did in May, I found this beautiful house. I mean, you went to it. It was insane. As soon as I saw it, I go, oh, we could never afford that. Like, that is like too nice. No way. And then that part of me that takes the step forward was like, I'm just going to reach out to the person and maybe I'll make a connection. And then in the future, when we can afford it. And of course I reached out and she was lovely and we somehow made it happen. And had I not reached out, had I listened to the fear, we would have had a smaller experience.
That was one of the most powerful experiences I've ever had. Just one of the deepest healings, the most amazing, empowering, beautiful experiences. I'm so glad that you did because it was amazing.
And I know that you live this very abundant life where Sara has two places that she lives. You live in Wisconsin and you live in Arizona, and you do lots of travel teaching opportunities and you're just bebopping around. And I remember thinking, I'm going to offer this to you, to come, but I highly doubt you would be able to do it because you have such a busy schedule. And of course, as the universe will, it parted the seas and it was like the 1 week that you weren't
wasn't
working.
it a lot of us? Because I know I was booked I was booked solid basically for but then I had this little spot and I was like, yeah, oh man, it was truly magical how it all came together.
So I think you're yet another example and inspiration that the universe will bypass all limitations. It will connect you with the right help and support, and that there is limitless options of support, even when we feel like there's not. I get it. Like, we can be like, no, I don't have friends or I don't know anyone in the city I live in, but yet there's 12-step. And now we live in this technology world where you might be able to hop on a virtual meeting, or there's just so many places. And Sara, I think one of the things that I've witnessed the most in you is your resiliency. And it reminds me of my own journey. I can't tell you how many times I've dusted myself off and got back up. And I always tell people that this work, it doesn't prohibit you from falling down. Like, it doesn't prohibit the same feelings from coming back or shifting back into the same patterns, but it does allow you to dust off and get back up and faster and faster. Mm-hmm. And girl, you got that.
Thank you. Well, thank you for supporting me. I definitely did have many times where I think that was your response, actually. Dust yourself off, get back up, and let's start again. And so as many times as it takes, right?
Yeah, I love it. So Sara, tell us one practice or mindset that helps you return to that grounded, conscious part of yourself when life feels overwhelming. Because I have a handful of clients that will sometimes bring a lot of resourcefulness to me. Like, I'm reading this book. I tried this app. I'm doing you're one of them. Katie Parisi, who is also on the podcast, is another one. I know you have so many things and so many things I've learned from you. So tell us a little bit about your practices and mindsets.
Yeah, I think meditation and breath work, just a combination of the two, really helped to get me into a grounded place. And so I always joke and say my meditation is my medication. Like, if I am regularly meditating, I feel more grounded and I feel more stable. There's more clarity. I'm less reactionary. It just really changes my life. So I really try my best to carve out space in my life for those practices, because I feel like it'll show up in every other area of my life. And it doesn't have to be anything too elaborate, just making a little space for those things.
Yeah. I think, we talked a lot about tarot. I'm going to give you some space to tell us a little bit more about how you channel all this beautiful wisdom and light. But there's been a couple times that you have offered feedback to me that was so helpful. In fact, obviously we see each other on Zoom a lot. And there was one time where you were like, Robin, do you mind if I give you like some feedback? And I was like, sure. And you were like, you lean to the left. And I was like, I do? Like, what? I had no idea. And I'm sure you guys will now see it in this. Like, I leaned to the left, like a little pinch on my lower back. So that I loved. And then when we were at the retreat, I have a tendency when I'm not paying attention to like slouch. And I was sitting at the kitchen table and you came up so cute and you were like, Robin, do you mind if I say something? I don't want to step on your toes. And I go, no, of course. And you were like, when you sit up and put your shoulders back, you go, you gain 3 inches. And I go, oh, like this. And I was like, oh my God. And you were like, look at the power in your stance. And I was like, oh my gosh, you're right. And now I catch it and I correct it. And now my poor son, I'll be like, bring those shoulders back. You just gained 3 inches. And it was so cute. I did it to him recently. And he was like, you're right. I did feel better. I feel more powerful.
How cool too that he can start it now. I wish I could go back to my younger self and say, sit up straight.
Right. But I mean, you just have such a beautiful, emotionally attuned way of giving feedback. And you have so much wisdom. I know that you have a wound a lot of us have around like your intellect and am I smart enough? And so many of us went through school and maybe didn't get A's and we thought that was the only form of intellect. And my goodness, I mean, there are some times where I wish you could see me the way that I see you, Sara, because you are so brilliant.
Thank you.
You're so welcome. Okay. So at the end of our little time together, I ask every guest the same questions because it's my way of being able to kind of differentiate and bring an individual perspective to this work. So I'm going to ask you some. Are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay. What is a belief about yourself that you've had to unlearn?
That I need to endure abuse to feel connected and loved, or what is perceived as love.
Dang. Okay. That is no longer true for you.
No.
Thank you. Thank you, God. Yeah. No one has to ever endure abuse and call that love. That's tolerance. That's fear. And Sara, you never, ever, ever deserve that in your life.
Thank you. I truly feel like I'm in a place where I will never tolerate it again. So thank you.
Shout it from the rooftops. What is a small daily boundary or practice that helps you feel grounded? You kind of answered that, but if there's another one you want to give us.
I know in a lot of our work together, we've talked about self-abandonment and just not to abandon myself, whether it's making a decision, turning something down, just any choices that I make or conversations that I have or don't have, just to not abandon myself in service of, doing the right thing or being liked or whatever preconceived notion I have about what I'm supposed to do.
What's a piece of advice that changed things for you?
This one came from you. It's if you push it down, it comes out sideways. And that has stuck with me over the years. And it's a good sign if I am pushing something down, but that the things can definitely have a way of showing up in life if we don't deal with them unconsciously.
I like that piece of advice.
It too.
I use it myself. What's a book that has helped shift how you show up relationally?
One of my favorites is Codependent No More. It's a classic. The newest version has a little bonus material, and Melody, she talks about her experience a little more. And I just love that book. I feel like it's one I can go back to again and again and always glean some new insights from it.
I agree. And I don't have the new version.
New one's awesome.
I need to get the new version. I still like sometimes approach that book and I'll do the thing where I'm like, I'm just going to open up a page and see what it has for me today. But I think that book is like a Bible for those of us that are healing codependency wounds and emotional wounds. So it's a great one. What is something you do now that your younger self would be proud of?
I think dare to step into my dreams in a way that I maybe never have before. So just being courageous enough to try new things and to, like the living two places. Like I never thought I could do that, but then I was like, I'll just try it and see what happens. And then it happened. And so just being curious enough to say, I'll follow that thought and see where it goes.
You know, one thing I think would be neat for us to share, because we've experienced it so much in our own life, is asking the universe for help.
Yes.
You know, like there's been so many times where I'm like, I can't afford that, or, and then I go, universe, can I have the money for that?
Mm-hmm.
And this is not airy fairy. Like, I mean, I could literally do an episode with like factual data of like the exact times. Like, I know I told you the story about one time when I was like, I don't know what to do. And I went, I'm just going to ask the universe for it. And I asked the universe for a specific amount of money. And then within that week, I got an insurance reimbursement check that I could not track back. Like I called because I was like, I don't want to spend this if it's not legit. And the lady was like, this is the weirdest thing. I see the check. I have no idea why. Just take it. They're not going to come back for it. And I was like, what? And it was for the exact amount that I asked the universe for plus 17 cents. Like that is a factual on my life story.
Well, I don't know how many times you've told me, and then I'm like, duh, because you're like, ask for it back. And I feel like now it's not even a question. You're like, oh, just ask for it back.
That's my big one, is ask for it back. Like sometimes when we make, like, we're like, oh, I'm going to live in two places. How am I going to afford the rent over here? And I'll go, well, ask for the rent back from the universe. Or I want to do this dream. I want to start this business, but then I got to put this money in and go, okay, well, ask for it back. Mm-hmm. And how many times have you gotten it back?
So many times. Like, I can't even tell you. And I forget it though, because I think it's an easy one to get into the logistics or all of the, things that fear, anxiety, all the other roadblocks that might come along with it. But it's so possible. Oh my goodness, it's so possible.
Yeah, I agree. So like, even when it comes to community or affording the coach or the work, like don't forget to ask the universe, because I truly believe, just based off the data of working with so many people, that the universe wants us to be the most fully expressed version of us, and it will help. But I think it can't override your free will. And so sometimes we need to ask. Mm-hmm. So it's just a great reminder. Okay, Sara, thank you so much for being here and for sharing your heart and your story with us today. I had so much fun talking to you. I think your journey is such a powerful example of what's possible when we decide to use our energy differently, and when we stop chasing what's not ours or in alignment and start creating what is. So this is a reminder that doing it differently doesn't mean doing it perfectly. It means showing up with intention. It means choosing again and again. And like we said, dusting ourselves off and getting back up, to build rather than react, to create rather than control, and to lead rather than chase. So for anyone who wants to connect with you, Sara, work with you, or learn more things about your offerings, which I'm going to pause for 1 second before you tell them, and I'm going to give just a very big boost for anyone who would like or is interested in tarot, in any, I mean, you have so many skills. I'm like, oh, Pilates, oh, yoga, oh, body, so many things. But specifically, I am such a fan of your readings. And then you gifted me an opportunity to beta test your tarot coaching program. And it was around manifesting something. And it was one of the best things that I've ever done. And I told all of my clients about it at that time. Honestly, I want to integrate it into my work as maybe like a step after people are done working with me. It is so good. If I ever have a community, which I'm knocking on wood, I hope we will, where we can do and have different people come on and do workshops and such. Sara, you are going to be a part of it. It is profound work. You are incredibly talented and amazing and safe and relational. I could probably go on, but I'm going to leave it at that. So where is the best place for people to connect with you?
Yes. So if you're interested in more information, you can email me at intuitinquiry@gmail.com.
Okay. And we will put that in the notes underneath I always want to call it a session, our episode. It's not a session, it's an episode. So if anybody is interested, like we were talking about before, don't think about the specifics, just call and connect with Sara. She's incredible. You will not regret it. So thank you so much, my friend, Sara Sparkles. This was a rich and inspiring conversation and such a gift for me to be able to kind of look back on our work and see the impact that it's had on you and how much of an empowered force of light you are. Not because of me and not because we changed anything about you, because that's who you are. And we kind of we eliminated some roadblocks that were prohibiting you from being able to be that fully expressed version of you. So I know this episode is going to resonate with people and stay with people. So thank you so much for being a part of this. And with me on the podcast, we're going to keep going, and I'm going to circle back around and talk about how we reparent that inner child and that teenager and the maladaptive adult. And I'm going to talk about AVPS and some of the things that we talked about in this episode. So stay tuned. Thanks everybody for listening. And Sara, thanks again.
Yes.
That's it for today's episode. Thank you so much for being here and for doing this work. If this episode resonated with you, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Come connect with me over on TikTok at Robin Breckenridge or Instagram at Coach with Robin, where I share even more insights, tools, and conversations around boundaries, self-trust, relational healing, and so much more. And just a quick reminder, this podcast is for educational and personal growth purposes only. The insights and tools I share are based on my experience as a life and relationship coach and are meant for general guidance. Each person's story is unique, and the nuances of individual experiences can't always be addressed in this format. What's shared here may not be applicable to every situation, especially those involving abuse, oppression, severe mental illness, or systematic harm. If you or someone you know is in crisis, please seek support from a qualified mental health professional or emergency resources. Thank you for listening and for showing up for yourself in this way. Take care, and I'll see you next time.